Welcome to Mobile Armor Radio, the podcast for all things Mecha. Jumpship incoming.
And welcome to Mobile Armor Radio, episode 50, the big 5-0. We're here to talk about giant mechs. My name's Rob.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Choppa.
You did want to fall over each other, so you had a nice pause there.
I did. It's
timed perfectly.
It's just comedy errors, no matter what.
Yeah, don't
show
worry.
we're doing.
I'll edit it all out.
It's one of the few things we've gotten good at doing over the years of doing this.
Over 50 episodes.
50 episodes, it's a landmark.
It's a centurion? No. A half centurion.
No, half centurion.
Yeah, whatever that is.
I think, what do we need? 60 episodes? Just 5 years?
Oh, to get syndicated?
Yeah, so we get syndication?
Yeah. Another 10 episodes will be syndicated.
All right. We're 10 more episodes and we're following Matlock.
We'll be on after Matlock. Anyways, enough of this chatter. Let's get at her. We're going to go to the dropship.
Dropship landing.
And we're in the dropship. I had to wait 2 seconds for these guys to stop talking. But we're here to talk what we've been working on. I'm going to start with Bryan. Bryan, what have you been working on?
Well,
that was
actually,
not a positive.
I've had some things on the docket. In a way, like in the sense of the hobby side of things, is that I, as of last recording, I did in fact finish writing that story. Yeah. My GCPS Strider story set in the Warpath universe from Mantic. And it was entered into a writing contest, and I took first out of 3. Woo!
Yay!
I voted.
I
think
appreciate
we put the link in I think in the Facebook page, so hopefully other people voted that listen too. So
yeah, I think there are a lot more votes than usual, which is fun.
It's because you're using your media stardom to pump up the numbers.
I think my mom voted.
Yeah.
but no, I was like, it was a really fun story to actually write too. Like it was another one where I waited till the last, the 11th hour to finish it up. But ultimately, it did kind of flow nicely out. So I have a big stompy robot, the big chunky kind, versus this kind of agile and limber kind of alien mecha. And then some other little surprises thrown in there. So if that sounds appealing to you, definitely check it out. It's like 10 pages long. And I think it was a fun time. So apart from that, the only thing I think I've done is fix my 3D printer.
That's a good job.
I did pick up 2 little kits. Little Gundam kits when I was at Hobby, like a Hobby Lobby kind of thing. One was, I think it's a Gym 2 or Gym 3. Little what are they called? Like the Compet ones? They're just the little tiny statue ones with the big heads. And then I picked up another one that is slightly bigger, but not high grade scale, but of Johnny Ryden. Let me see if I can pull up so it's a G-Frame 10 kit. So they're just little tiny mechs, but the G-Frame ones are another set that are really posable. It was Gundam Converge. However you want to pronounce that, was my little my gym that I picked up. They were like super cheap, so I was like, those sound like fun. Yeah. And the rest of my like high grades and everything are still in storage, so I'm able to like have small things out.
No. Married life.
Yeah. But no, that's kind of been the two like really core hobby things that I've been working on. So how about you, Pat?
Me, I've actually done quite a bit.
He's done nothing
in the last couple of weeks. So I really took it to heart my own pep talk about getting my Neo-Jean done. I said to myself, Pat, you need to get working on this. And I said, you know what, Pat, you are right. You
also, Pat, you are so handsome.
Yeah. And then,
you're the smartest person I know.
A good-looking guy like yourself shouldn't be waiting around building this thing. You just get it done. So I did. And,
so you got it totally done?
No. But I've made forward progress.
That's good.
Since I put in, I don't know, did I put any pictures up? I think I might have. At the release of this episode.
I think you put the pictures up of the shoulders, didn't you?
Yeah, I finished the torso. I finally got all the upper body finished, the chest and the torso. The only thing I'm missing is the head of that piece. And we haven't gotten there yet. And continuing with, mainly what's been holding me up is the clogging of my airbrush gun. And I think I figured it out. My right air pressure and the right mix of flow improver for some of these paints I'm spraying through my gun. It took a lot of patience and working on spraying those shoulders and torsos, but I finally figured it out, and I'm making forward progress now. So
that's good.
I finished the shoulders and the torso, like I said, and I put those pictures up, and the last couple of days I've been working on I started working on what's the word I'm looking at? The hips.
The hips don't lie.
Hips don't lie. So, and it was, I think Rob was there.
Big child-bearing hips.
When I was working on it, I took, so the pelvis part of the hips are probably like one of the two biggest pieces of the two biggest pieces of the kit. And they were on one sprue. And when I cut them off, I was like, yay, I finally get to throw away a sprue. So I threw away the first sprue of that model kit, empty sprue of that model kit.
Because it only had two giant pieces on it.
Yeah. And it was actually kind of, I'm still trying to figure out to paint this thing too. And so I had to actually sit there and look through pictures to see what parts would be actually visible and what parts were going to be hidden. So I didn't have to paint
you
so much.
Want to waste a bunch of paint on parts you'd never see? Yeah.
That being said, that's where I'm at now. We're on the hip assembly part.
He doesn't even have legs, so it should go quick after this.
Oh, this one does have legs. The Neo-Jean comes with legs. You can tear them off. You can take them off, and then it would have noble legs. But
you can also tear them off if you're just full of rage.
If you want
he wants to recreate the movie.
Apparently, this is a very hard to find kit, so if you want to tear it on your own set, that's fine.
Are you going to do the legs, or are you just going to do the thrusters?
I'm going to do the legs, but I'm going to...
He's dying. The thought of having to make the Gundam legs made him die.
It made me verklempt.
Neo-Jean is choking him right now.
Almost choked on my own sadness of having to
It's all the airbrush paint he's been breathing in painting this thing.
Yeah. Or the resin that I've started printing again, too, which leads me into my next project that I started working on. I started printing the Scorpion mech from John Bear Ross.
Yeah.
One hiccup, my legs misprinted, so I don't know if my file got corrupted when I sliced it. But everything else has been coming out all right. I went with the claw gun combo because he's given different loadouts you can put on your Scorpion, which is pretty cool. Rob, what did you go on yours? You went Buzzsaw?
I went Buzzsaw on one and Lobster Claw on the other.
Yeah, so I went both Lobster Claws with guns, and
I think I'm more like not even Lobster Claws. You're like pointy almost. They're like like blades almost.
Blades with guns on the insides.
Yeah,
which I thought was cool. And then I think on the tail I'm going to put Gatling guns.
Yeah, I have flamers on my tail.
But what I did that you didn't do is I printed the big giant battle cannon, which I'm going to mount.
Yeah. I went more classic Scorpion. You're going more combat.
I'm
Scorpion.
going combat Scorpion. It's gonna be a Scorpion mech, but boy, is this thing going to kill some things.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that because I'm planning on painting it up.
Painting.
It's big. Oh, listen, I'm on a roll here now. I actually think the required Mantic model that I'm being not forced to paint, but have to paint for a release coming up. So that's been sparking my.
Well, yeah, you were forced. Yeah, you were forced to go into the basement, and then while that's drying, you have time to do other things.
Yeah, so I've been working, and that's I'm in between printing too and drying and washing. I start working on the models and everything too. So, have I done anything else? Still working on all that cab terrain that I got from the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
those are all small little projects that get done in between. I'm starting to fill up a shoebox worth of little disc terrain. What size are those things? About 50 mil, you think?
I have no idea. They
look like 50 mil rounds.
Yeah, the bases.
Or 50 mil squares. They come in rounds and squares.
I'm not sure.
So I'm starting to build a collection of that stuff. So, but those are getting done, like I said, in between. Those are like in between project works. And they're nice. They're nice little scatter terrain too. So I think you can use them just for pretty much any game you want.
Yeah, nice. especially like Battletech or that kind of scale.
Yeah, they're perfect.
Well, I guess some were like barrels and like they look like barrels, but I think they're supposed to be giant. But
yeah, I did some. Them. What have I done? I've done some rec tanks, rec mechs, some sandbag tank emplacements. I've lost track.
There's a lot. That Kickstarter had a lot of stuff.
And I think that is all mech related that I have been working on. It's been a pretty full 2-3 weeks of getting stuff done.
Nice. I'm realizing I actually forgot to mention one thing that I actually did was I painted up a GCPS mule because I finally got one. But I painted it up like the hover truck from 8th Team. So now I have like the 8th Team. I need to get them all together and take a picture of them. But I've got like the two regular kind of styled Gundams, and then I have my old Easy 8 design, and now I have the hover truck.
Are they all
I need to get them photo shoot. Yep, they're all GCPS.
So you could, probably not legal because you have way too many strikers.
I've been trying to figure out a list. For Firefight, I can do it.
Yeah, Firefight, you could do it easy.
But yeah, no, it was really fun to like put that. Like, it was a really nice model. It's like one thing with some of these Mantic kits is like the vehicles and stuff have been really solid, which is really reassuring. They're easy to put together, and then they're nice and sturdy once you're throwing them around.
And they paint it really nice because I painted up my what's the flying transport? The Hornet.
The Hornet, yeah.
Yeah, I painted up mine really nice. It took the camo really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 28mm vehicles are always nice. They're always good scale. Cool. For me, I also did the Scorpion mech. I don't know if we talked about it last time. I think we talked about... Did we talk about it? I don't remember. But
I don't think you had started printing it yet.
No, I don't think so either. But he is, I went classic. He's got flamers on his tail. And like, say, a buzzsaw on one claw and then a regular claw on the other. And, yeah.
I will say that I forgot to mention, too, that John Ross, when he designed these things, also designed it to fit magnets really easy so you don't have to drill holes. Because you magnetized yours. I did not because I don't have any magnets.
Yeah, I magnetized mine just because I didn't want the whole things to glue them. So I just I'll just put magnets in there. And it worked really well. We got to thank John Bear Ross for letting us get a preview of the Kickstarter, which just ended. So I'm sure it'll be available for purchase soon off his, wherever you can purchase his stuff. But we'll have links at the Facebook page when it comes out. But good stuff.
It's a good looking stuff. Yeah. When I get mine painted up, I'll have mine posted.
Yeah. It's once again, I like the scale. They've done a lot of the Rebel Minis. I did another Kickstarter from them, and they do got great vehicles also.
Yeah.
He was showing
I want to try and print that grav tank, but I don't know if it'll fit printer.
Yeah, it wouldn't fit in my printer. It's like over a foot long, so my printer's definitely not that tall.
Mine might be.
Yeah, it's way too big.
I need to see how big mine can print. I need to look at the specs.
You have an FDM printer, don't you?
I do.
That's the way to print it.
I just
you haven't used it in forever?
I haven't used it in a long time, and I think that I'm almost positive that the filament down there is horrible.
Yeah,
now sure. Because it's been almost a year since it's just hanging it out, not packed up, and Actually, I have two FDM printers. Remember, because I have one where the hot end is bad, so I just kind of put it out the side. I don't want to feel like messing around with it anymore.
Yeah, I have a bad one with a bad hot end too, so it's just out in the garage now. So
I think Rick just had to replace his.
Yeah, it's always a fight between resin and FDM, but I find resin, well, you go through screens and stuff, but it's at least easier to set up. You get a lot of prints fast, but you don't have to worry about maintaining it like I did my FDM. I was fighting with that thing constantly, so. Anyways.
Yeah, the resin printer is a little bit easier to control.
Yeah, I would think so.
I just got my FDM to behave again, and turns out I had a hole in the Bowden tube inside the hot end, so it was under extruding for the last couple, probably a month.
Yeah. And then you get new filament, and you have to change it all again. Even if it's the same brand filament, it doesn't matter. They're all different, so I find it very finicky. But anyways, speaking of 3D printing, though, I have started a new project for Battletech. Alpha Strike box set's coming out soon. Hopefully I'll be able to get it at Gen Con. So I was like, I'm going to print something I don't have. I noticed I don't have any Wolf's Dragoons minis painted, which I thought was amazing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do some Wolf's Dragoons. I'm going to do the whole Alpha Regiment from the original FASA Wolf's Dragoons book, from the Battle at Misery. So I was like, I'll start it, and I get all the mechs, start printing them, and then I realized, oh wait, there's over 60 mechs in this regiment. So it's quite large. So it's going to be a big project, but I've got them almost all printed. I think I have 2 or 3 left to print, and I just wanted to do them all, and I'm trying to keep as close to the classic versions of the minis too, like the unseen versions, since it was back in the day that this was from. So I'm trying to do classic. So it's the Alpha Regiment is orange and black. So I'm trying to paint them also not look like pumpkins is going to be hard. So it's going to be we'll make it interesting. But I'm almost done the printing part. Then I got to go to the painting part. So, but there's also vehicles in aerospace too. So I got everything ready and got to prime it all and then paint it. It's going to be a lot. So I might do lance by lance at that point. I actually have it all split up in all the different lances, so I'll have to probably do it that way to keep at least all the lances look the same as I go. I'm sure it'll change as painting that many mechs. It's gonna definitely can't make them all look identical. I'll have to figure out their symbols and stuff. So it's an ongoing project. So it'll be something I'll be talking about hopefully every episode because I'll be working on it. It'll give me something to actually work on. So I really didn't have anything. I don't have any projects on the go, so I have no model kits or anything. So that was my plan. A summer project, which will probably take 5 years. So
500 years.
Yes. That's about it. Anybody else got anything? I think we'll move on to ComStar, if that sounds good for you guys.
Sounds good.
ComStar. Message from ComStar.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Rick.
From Dead's on the Podcast.
And you're listening to
Mobile Armor Radio.
I am Lone Star. What is that? What was it? Sinistar.
Are you having a stroke?
You never played that video game, Sinistar?
No.
I thought you were making a Resident Evil reference.
It was when it was like an asteroid. What's the word?
Knockoff?
Not a knockoff, but when it follows the progression, it's a sequel.
Yeah.
And then, but the big bad guy is Sinistar, and as you're destroying pieces of asteroid, parts of him start to grow, and then when he becomes alive, he's just like this giant wolf-looking face that can't be destroyed. And that's how you'd say, I am Sinistar.
Anyways, that's Sinistar. We're into ComStar right now. So ComStar is TVs, movies, books, comics, RPGs, video games, everything media. And let's start with Patrick. Have you watched anything? You're hobbying as the way goes.
Yeah, you know how this works for me. So I have not been watching any TV. Yeah, Pacific Rim Black is still there, and I just haven't tapped into it.
You're the reason it was canceled.
Probably. They don't count my thing.
Didn't watch it fast enough.
Oh. I forgot to mention my Ignition Core painting too, but
well, it's too late now.
No, it's not. It's just I just know we have some Ignition Core news. That's what made me remember it. But honestly, no books. I know I was packing up my bookshelf because we're remodeling the office, and I saw my Bad Dog, Mad Dog, and I forget the third one. Book series that Bryan's been reading.
The Gatewalker series?
Gatewalker series. And that reminded me that maybe I should read a book. And I didn't. So.
Read a book.
That's my ComStar.
Nice. Bryan, hopefully you've done a little bit more than Pat.
Well, I finished reading Bad Dog.
Skipping.
But in a different book series, I found myself skipping a book. I've read a series. What the heck is? I forget what the series itself is called, but it's the first book in is called Dauntless. I think it's Jack Campbell. It's a big space battle book series that caught my attention years back, and like one of the big hooks for it is like space. How they handle space battle is that they really integrate the time differential when you're traveling at different like speeds of light.
Oh yeah.
And so like there'll be encounters with one another, and he'll be like, okay, we're going to make a turn here. They're not going to see it for 2 hours. And so at this time, I'm going to make another turn because they're going to be reacting to the first turn. So like they do a really good job of, taking a rather complex, mindset and really like exploring it in a very intuitive way. I don't know if you were commenting on, I had a Facebook post earlier where turns out I read the third book in the series rather than the second book in that series. So, but I feel like I didn't miss much.
Wow, that's right. Yeah, if you didn't notice until like the end of the book, it means
I was literally in like the last 2 or 3 chapters when I just like was flipping through, and it's like from the author that brought you Fearless, and I'm like,
that's the third.
The first book's Dauntless. And I'm reading Courageous. Like, so that was fun. I did finish reading that book as well, which was neat. I've continued watching Votomes. I think I just finished. I'm just going to call it the Vietnam arc.
Yeah,
because they're in the jungle along a river most of it.
Yep, definitely. And they're even going down the river, like in Hearts of Darkness. Apocalypse Now. Yeah. So
I'm still enjoying that series, and excited to see where it goes. I'm officially on the 3rd disc out of 4 for the TV series. These are Blu-rays, so
it only gets crazier from there. That's all I'm saying.
10 episodes per disc or something like that. But yeah, I've liked that one. I'm excited to see where it goes. And then I picked up playing again the game Into the Breach. Which, because I think a couple months back I was playing FTL again and really enjoying it. And this was another game that they made where you pilot basically like 3 mechs against giant monsters in a little, I think it's a 10 by 10 grid.
Yeah, it's almost like tower defense, but you're kind of trying to stop them from popping up, the monsters. And
yeah, it's a weird kind of pseudo turn-based tower defense kind of thing.
Seems weird, turn-based tower defense.
You've played the game, Pat.
It's kind of unique and novel in its own way, and it's roguelike as the phrase goes, which means that you die a lot and you have to start over. Which
Pat, you played
to
this game. Pat, you know this game. You introduced me to this game.
Yeah, I'm agreeing that it's a bit weird.
But I can say I have successfully beaten one set of it with the Rift Walkers, the original group that you unlock. Because basically, after you beat 2 islands, you can go to the final island, or you can go to like 2 other ones. And the first time I was feeling gutsy. I'm like, I've got a good combo. I'm going to go to a 3rd island before going to the final.
Yeah.
And I got wiped. Like all my pilots were killed. I didn't get to bring anybody to the next timeline.
Yeah.
So that was rough. That was a fresh start. But I definitely got the hang of like the mechanics and how you really, it's not a game where you're always looking to do damage to the enemies. There's a lot of like, I need to knock him out of position so he doesn't wreck this thing.
Yeah, prioritize targets and yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's for a rather simple mechanic set. It's got a great depth of gameplay. So I've taken a little break from that now that I've beaten it once, so I can let myself de-stress before.
De-stress.
The interesting thing about that game is just recently it was announced that Netflix is doing games now. They did a breakout kind of game before, and now Into the Breach is one of the Netflix games, so you can play for free if you have a Netflix account. And you install you install the app on your phone or your device, and I think you can even watch it even play it on the computer. Yeah, so you just have to have a Netflix account. They're doing that. What? They're trying to get into the gaming sphere, I guess, to make some more money since they're losing so much. So.
I just like that idea that like Netflix is losing so much because they've been riding high like for so long, and it's like this is the first time they're taking a hit, and they're like, no, the world's on fire.
And people are like, oh, it's losing so much money. They lost 1 million subscribers. They expected to lose a lot more. That they found out that they only lost 1 million was a good thing. So,
yeah. Password sharing. It's like used game sales. It's destroying the medium.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not that they lost 1 million subscribers. They just lost 1 million subscriptions, but kept the same amount of watchers.
Yeah.
They're going to introduce ads too. Ads like I forget. It's Disney or Discovery Plus has it where it's cheaper, but you get ads.
Netflix was going to go that route, I think.
Hulu does that, too. Hulu, there's
so that's
cheap
Netflix
Hulu, and then there's expensive Hulu.
Yeah, they're going to like a cheaper version that you get ads, which is, I'd rather just pay for not ads. I'm paying for it.
Well, we've done the sharing with the Hulu with the in-laws.
Ixnay airing Shay.
But it's just Hulu. No one watches Hulu.
Well, I can't even get Hulu in Canada, so.
But they have the cheap version, so I have to watch Orville with the ads.
Oh.
But I will say, I don't hate it too much because those are the times when I can actually get up and go pee.
Right?
Yeah, it's like the olden days, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a time where you just embraced that it was a commercial break.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it helps because there are times when I got to pee. Instead of just pausing it, I can wait till the commercial and just go.
Yep. And then they can get their ad revenue.
Yeah.
When nobody's watching.
Exactly. And I can drown it out with the sound of my pee hitting the water.
I won't even listen to your ads.
So, as a last little topic for me, so one thing doing I feel like I really kind of got back into Giant Mecha in the last month or so, month and a half, especially with writing about one, and it really kind of triggered that hankering that I have for Armored Core style mech games. And I feel like there aren't as many out there that aren't like Gundam. And what I mean by Armored Core style, where it's like you are literally swapping out every single part of the mech.
Now, Armored Core was
like,
third person, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was third person.
I'm trying to remember that game. And it was third person, and you kind of move side to side.
Yeah, well, it was full 3D because it was PlayStation 1 was the first one that came that had one.
Yeah, that's when I played Armored Core.
Yeah, I played Armored Core 3 on the PS2, and I remember playing that with my brother, and just it was an absolute blast. And like it's kind of a style of game that doesn't like it never took off as much as some of the other ones. Like I said, like there's some of the Gundam ones now that are the more the kind of like model kit centric ones where it's like you really can swap all the parts around and whatnot. But it's just not like because it's Gundam, it inherently has a very specific flavor to it. And so I was like looking for another series or even in this case like a tabletop game. I'm like I'd love to play, Battletech always like the thing missing for me from it is that all those minis are set, right? That you can't change the model at all because they're all like monopose and whatnot. And so it just kind of got me Googling, what's like a modular mech game, tabletop game. And I stumbled upon this Kickstarter project called ChibiTech SD.
Pat's favorite words altogether.
Yeah. It's by David Lee Seymour. And what this guy has done is, like,
created an abomination.
He's created, like, an entire, like, modular system where it's torsos, it's, leg units, it's separate arms.
Bulbous heads.
Like, multiple heads, auxiliary packs, like, all this stuff. And this is a 3D print, a 3D file Kickstarter project.
Is it magnets or is it how are you supposed to connect them?
Yeah, so basically he's got it set up where all these come with a slot for a magnet, nice. And then they're intended to be magnetized. And with I forget how big. Yeah, a lot of the typical miniature gaming ones.
Giant magnets.
They specify the size and everything.
To keep the heads on, because those things will just roll off like bowling balls.
Yeah. But it's hugely successful Kickstarter for one thing. Like he had 88 backers on this Series 2 that he released. And he's got like over like 300 odd like parts that he's developed for these models. And I've been he actually has a game that he's been throwing together for it too, which I've been kind of reading up on. It's a lot of you build a dice pool game based on like what parts you have on your mech and what your attack is, and so you're rolling like these slightly modified D6s that have like a miss state, a hit state, or a crit state on them. So kind of like a Star Saga dice set, and one of the other kind of neat things is like you can 3D print out your ammo for the mech, and you have like a little crate that you put your ammo in for your like special shots, and so you can count them that way.
That's counters, yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, it's really neat stuff, and the aesthetic is right up like what I'm looking for. He's got a huge variety. And I've actually been talking to the guy because I was very much interested in getting into this. I'm like, this is really what I'm looking for, and it was one of those things like he's got it set up where you can either get everything or individual pieces. And so what I did is I just kind of reached out to him and was like, hey, what do you think about doing like a getting started kit that's like, for, I think I threw out there like 5 or 6 mechs, and you can, just have a little way to get started in there. And it's been really fun. I've been chatting back and forth with him. He loves the idea, and so he's going to be putting some of that together. He's a one-man band, and so he's very busy. So I don't hold that against him at all. He actually is, I think, friends with the Ignition Core guys.
Oh yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, and so they I think he was mentioning like he didn't want to tread on either each other's toes when he was putting together this 3D project.
Yeah, it's totally different idea though. Like the funny thing about Ignition Core is he's going fully like resin, like you buy the miniatures. Where something like that where it's all modular, you could never do that. I think without 3D printing because you want specific parts and you want to be able to print multiples of things, and I think it's one of those things that today's gaming without 3D printing you wouldn't have a game like that, which I think is pretty cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep chatting with this guy. I'm really excited to check out the project, get my hands on it itself. I think if anyone's looking for a modularized mech game or even just minis themselves, definitely check it out. Like from what I've seen, like he even makes them very FDM friendly. As far as printing goes, even some of the more uniquely shaped ones fit pretty well, and the paint schemes that he throws on these things are really neat. So yeah, and they have little like miniature dudes with giant heads, like little people running around. So yeah, definitely check that out if you are so inclined. And I will. I know I told him, it's like, hey, you should come to this community because we like to talk about stuff like you're making.
Yeah.
So.
It's good. That's good.
Pat, the beauty of it also is with 3D printing, you can change the head size. You can modify it so it wouldn't be chibi. You could make it the right proportion.
True.
Like it's not
proportions.
Correct proportions, I should say.
I'd have to correct the monstrosities, the abominations.
Yeah, because you can scale different X, Y, and Z, right? Like you can scale them differently, so you can change the scale of it.
I don't think my printer has a Z key.
You do it in the slicing.
He's making fun of me using Z, not Z. Z's are little guys who steal things. That's all Z's are.
It's the Mac thing again.
It's a Mac thing, yeah.
It's a Mac thing.
Zeds.
But yeah, so check out his stuff. It's really neat. It's worth looking at if nothing else. And yeah, so that's enough rambling out of me. So Rob,
yeah, we'll get links in the show notes for that, so you can check it out. Lots of like news-ish kind of stuff. But first of all, Pat and I, almost when this comes out, we'll be at Gen Con. So come visit.
Come.
Yeah.
Come, my lady.
We'll be at the Mantic
Who sings
booth.
that song?
That was Sugar Ray, sadly.
Oh.
I knew that. But
I knew it was Sugar Ray too. I wasn't going to say anything.
That's my need to be correct was overcame. Anyways, we'll be at the Mantic booth. Come say hi. I don't remember the booth number.
1141.
And yeah, don't bother us too much. We'll be busy.
Bring us your painted favorite mechs so we can say that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll take pictures. We'll take pictures of them.
Yeah.
Also, in September 1st to 4th in Denton, Texas is CavCon. We will not be able to go to CavCon because I think that's Labor Day
so
weekend.
Close to Gen Con.
But if anybody is going to CavCon, take lots of pictures, post them in our Facebook because we'd love to see it. I'm sure we'll get to see some of that stuff, new Cav stuff.
I think one of these days we should just plan to go, even though it's always so close to Gen Con.
Yeah.
We have to figure a way.
More time off is always a problem, but...
yeah, it's not so much time off for me as it is money, but...
yeah, that too. To fly to Texas isn't going to be cheap.
Well, maybe we could get you to Chicago and then we'll just drive it down. You have to see how many hours that is.
Yeah, that's probably like 3 weeks of driving. So.
I have a feeling that I get 16 plus hours.
I don't know where Denton, Texas is. I don't know what part of Texas, but if it's near the Mexico border, it's really far.
All right, keep telling the news. I'm going to look that up.
As Pat said before, Ignition Core Games has a new stuff coming out. They have Sciocast, which is this new process of making miniatures. And it's like a giant machine that just prints miniatures in this, like, mass produces miniatures, but in seconds. Like, it's just this crazy thing.
It's like a vacuum.
Yeah, well, it's injection molding, but it's in a small the machine's probably, I don't know, maybe 8 by 6 high by 3 wide.
We've seen them, and me and Ronnie have looked at them before.
They're expensive right now, but they're
very,
cool.
very expensive. But the cool thing, I think, is the reason why we wanted to look at them is that you can do them in color, so you can do pre-painted miniatures that way. Yeah,
it's colored, and you can, it's like a powder that it starts out as, and it's all, you can do crazy one-piece stuff, and it's the future of mass production of minis. But anyways, Ignition Core Games is doing some of these for their RPG called Project Exodus. So they have a bundle, a beta bundle they're calling it, because the game isn't out yet, so it's early access. But you're going to have early access to these miniatures, and then when the game comes out, you're going to get in on the play testing and stuff like that, which is cool. And these miniatures look awesome, and I'm really tempted to get in on this. But it's probably too late now to get it shipped to Pat's house, but it's really cool looking.
To drive the dead in Texas is 14 hours.
14 hours straight. Yeah, that's crazy. But so Ignition Core Games still pumping out great stuff, which is, it's nice to see.
I think you can get that shipped to my house, though. I think in time.
Well, don't tempt me. I'm trying to save money for Gen Con. Also, another news is Gary Whitta, who did... he's currently writing a Batman book, but he's also famous for... I think he wrote Rogue One. I think it was Rogue One he wrote. He's doing a mech-based audiobook called Gundog. The preview's up on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's going to be free on YouTube or if it's just going to be an audiobook, but he's all into mechs, which is cool. So
that's nice.
Yeah, so the link to the teaser.
Gary Whitta, give us a call. We'll promote your book.
There you go. Well, he said he's the prime promoter, so I'm sure we could get him on if we wanted to, so we'll have to look into that.
MobileArmorRadio@gmail.com. Hit us up.
I'm sure he's not listening, Pat. You'll have to contact him.
Someone who is his friend is listening.
Friend of the show.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty much how we get...
That's true.
Our guests.
We've never actually gone to ask anyone to be a guest. People just contact them for us. Enough news, but for what I've been doing, I had nothing to watch, so I was like, on Hasbro Pulse on YouTube, they have the whole Transformers G1 cartoons. So I started watching from the beginning. I'm about halfway into Season 2 right now. Season 1, it was surprisingly good. I was like, oh my god, this is higher quality than I remember Transformers, because Season 2 is more what you remember. It's the cheesy ones where they time travel and there's weird things. But Season 1 of Transformers, it was only 13 episodes. It was really good. I was surprised because it had like continuing storylines and stuff. I'm like, oh, this isn't Transformers. They cheapened out and all the, like, everybody makes fun of the cartoon, like, inaccuracies, like the mistakes all the time in Transformers. That's all Season 2. Season 1 was tight. But it's all for free on Hasbro Pulse, so if you want to check it out, I would check out Season 1. You'd be surprised how good this was. I always thought Transformers, the reason I never revisited it, like I do even G.I. Joe I watch quite often, is because I remember it being bad. And I think it's because of Season 2. So, Season 1 was good. Speaking of Transformers, there was a Starscream fan film that I found on YouTube. I don't know how I stumbled across it, but it's really good. It's like, the voice acting is, it's not the actual actors. And Starscream sounds a lot like, he sounds more like Cobra Commander than he does Starscream, even though it was the same voice actor.
It's funny you said that, because I was thinking the same thing when I watched it.
Yeah, it's the same voice actor, but he didn't do quite the same thing as Cobra Commander. He's much more screechy as Cobra Commander. But anyways, it's really good fan film. Pretty much it's Starscream is getting tested by Megatron, and the animation is, like, if they did an actual cartoon with this animation, I'd be blown away. Not the computer animated stuff, which is very divisive. This is, I guess this guy's done a lot of Macross fan films and stuff, so it's right up his alley to do a Starscream one. And there's even he even does Gerwalk mode at one point, Starscream, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, he did. I noticed that too. I was like, oh, Robotech.
Yep. So the person who did it was all into that stuff. So it's, once again, show notes to check out the link. It's also, I posted it on Facebook, so you've probably already seen it if you've gone to Facebook. Randomly, I found a comic book by Valiant Comics called Armorclads. And I was like, oh, this looks like mechs. And it's pretty much miners and I've only read issue 1 so far, but it's miners in powered suits, and then they have they're kind of like slaves, and their overlords have bigger power suits, and then there's mechs in the thing too. And there's these alien-like creatures that are causing trouble, but pretty much these miners are getting abused by their overlords, and like they're cheap labor, I guess. They're pretty much slaves. So they get attacked by all these aliens, and instead of helping their overlords get massacred, so they just kind of watch, and then they kill all the aliens after they killed their buddies. But then at the end, all the bunch more of these, I forget what they call them. They're like the better versions of the suits show up to arrest them, I guess, because they found out they didn't help them. So it's an interesting. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of rebellion and stuff in this, and using these mining mechs to fight these real mechs. So it's going to be fun. From Valiant Comics. So if you're into comic books and you're looking for some mech action, there it is. And lastly, in Canada, it takes a while, but I finally got my Pacific Rim Omnibus Kickstarter. Pat, you forgot to mention it. You got yours too.
Oh, that's right. I did. I did post a pic.
I got all the pins. I got the nice slipcase edition.
I put my pins on my con bag.
I did too.
I did not take my shrink wrap out my book yet, though.
No, I have not. I haven't cracked it open yet. I've read most of the stories already. Like I think the only new one is there's a Pacific Rim Blackout story in there, but all the other ones I've read as they came out. But it's nice to have in a giant slipcase omnibus edition, same height as an omnibus hardcover, and I'm sure it's going to be available it's Legendary Comics, who's also Legendary Pictures, same company. So I'm sure it'll be available to buy eventually, but it's quite nice, and it was a nice, like the pins are really nice, like really quality pins. So, and there are a couple prints, and the prints were gold metallic like finish on them. It's really cool. So I gotta get some frames to hang them somewhere if I find some wall space in my house. So fun stuff. So that's it for me with the ComStar. I don't think there's anything else I've done. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the MechBay Hanger, and we'll talk about some favorite things. We'll see you there. Please join us.
Yes.
Now entering the MechBay Hanger.
And welcome to the MechBay Hanger. This one's I'm really immersed in Transformers right now, so I was like, you know what? Let's do top 5 Transformers from your childhood or your current hood, and we'll talk about our favorite ones and what they mean to us and why we think they're cool. And probably mostly it's because how they look.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll give
These are the Transformers from my hood.
That's right, from the hood. My first Transformer I'm going to talk about is one of the rare ones. When I was a kid, I was much more into G.I. Joe. I didn't have very many Transformers. But the one I did have, because he was a Lamborghini Countach, which was in the 80s, that was the obsession for every child, is to have a Countach.
The Countach.
It was Sideswipe, the red Countach, and he was the coolest. He looked cool. I have one now. I have like the Masterpiece version of him, or like a knockoff at least, and it's much more like it has like movable limbs and stuff. I'm pretty sure when I was a kid, the legs were like one piece, and it wasn't as in my brain. I remember it being like a cool action figure, but I don't think it was. I think it was much more of a hey, this thing it pops out the arms, and I do remember it. I obviously broke him because I was a child, but it was a childhood favorite to have Sideswipe. And watching the cartoon, Sideswipe's in it for like seconds. He's barely in the cartoon at all, which is funny. It's all for that aesthetics. Oh, it's all for the aesthetics. Everybody wants the Countach. So that was my first one. That's how we're going to do it. So we'll move on to Patrick. What's your first Transformer?
Are you starting from 1 or 5?
I'm starting from 5.
All right, that's
my least favorite.
That's how I do it. It's not my least favorite, but it's my number 5. And my number 5 is Starscream.
He's your least favorite?
Not my least favorite. See,
I'm joking.
There's hundreds of Transformers, but in my top 5, he's probably more than number 5. And I've always liked Starscream because he's just a seeker, but he's always the boob seeker. But he wasn't such the boob seeker in the comic books as much. You know what I'm saying? He was a little more ruthless in the comic books.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I like to think of him more in the comic book since then. The G1
you don't like
cartoon.
The one he's always just yelling at Megatron.
Yeah.
Or turn this up, I can do it better, and then he falls.
Or he does something and then all he does is messes it up.
Yeah.
So
he's the consummate loser.
Yeah, he is. It's sad, but I dug his color scheme.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the original comic books, he eventually gets like huge power and wipes out like all the Transformers that were no longer being produced.
Yeah.
As toys, so they had to wipe them out of the comic book. He eventually kills like hundreds of toys. So yeah, he's much more powerful in the comic books for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and he's also, despite his ineptness when it comes to leading all the Decepticons, he's actually very good at leading all the Seekers, which I don't understand why that doesn't translate into leading the Decepticons, but
yeah. So there you go, Brian. What's your least top 5 favorite? Not your least favorite.
My least top 5 favorite. So it's one of those things like I don't watch too many of the Transformers cartoons. I've only seen like a couple of them, and I don't really read the comics. So I've got a limited scope to really pick from, but I do have a handful. And I think I'm going to throw on here that Jetfire, specifically from Revenge of the Fallen, the second Michael Bay movie, the SR-71 Blackbird, who is all old and decrepit, and talks about how
Jetfire.
How his father was the wheel, the first one, and what did he transform into? Nothing. But he did so with honor. That's the only reason he's on my list.
That bothered me too.
But yeah, it's only his name that bothers me because as a character, I think he's one of the few that actually has a good character in those Michael Bay movies. Most of them are kind of one note. He's actually got some character to him.
Mm-hmm.
So and spoilers. He does some stuff. So
yeah, but yeah, so that's how he made my list.
Nice. My number 4 is going to be the one, the only Devastator. It's kind of a cheat because he's actually 6 guys. Yeah, he's 6 guys. 5?
But he's the first 6. Of the Comitrons, right?
The combiners. They were all Constructicons, all very bright green.
He's the OG, bright green and purple.
Yep, and they're all like construction vehicles combined into Devastator, and I just like him because he's huge, and the look of him, and the toy I have of him he's pretty cool, and I really like it. And only in combined mode, as individual bots they suck, but Devastator is cool. Even though
you don't like dump trucks and backhoes and
they're kind of stupid. But the only problem in the cartoon, especially, he falls apart all the time.
He does.
Because otherwise he'd be unstoppable. So until he got to Omega Supreme around, he was the man. So Devastator. So Pat,
but he didn't fall apart all that much in the comic books either.
Well, yeah. You always have to find ways to get around him.
I feel like they really dumbed some of the Decepticons down in the G1 cartoon.
Well, yeah, you had to, otherwise they'd win.
All right, so my number 4 is probably I was never a huge fan of the Autobots, but my number 4 is going to be Jazz.
Because I thought you might like Jazz.
Because like the Lamborghini Countach, the Porsche 935 was also the 80s wanted car. And he was voiced by Catman Struthers.
Yep, Catman. I think he eventually left over some kind of differences, but yeah, he was the original Jazz. Yeah,
he was second command for Optimus Prime, and he dies in the TV show, but I think he leaves in the comic books.
Yeah, well, the movie especially killed off a lot of the.
The movie. He's like one of the first people to die as a sub commander. He takes it to the skull real quick.
It's because they no longer made the toys, so they just killed them all off. So it's kind of funny, but I do like the idea when he he needs it, he just pops out those big speakers and just starts blasting things with music.
Yeah.
It's a nice power. It's funny, in the original G1, almost all of them had like a power, which kind of went away, but they all had something they could do, and that was his, to shoot sound waves.
Yeah.
Cool. Bryan, what you got for number 4?
So my number 4, I admit I don't know a lot about this character, but
does he look cool?
Windblade.
Oh yes, Windblade. Yeah. Newer character.
Newer character. She was someone that, like, a friend of mine, Celeste, who is really into Transformers, like, from all spectrums of them, like, was showing me this character once and was really enthusiastic. And I think I did wind up reading like a comic or two that she was in. I just really love the design, like the aesthetic that she has, and like she transforms into another jet, which is always sweet. If I remember correctly, and feel free to say I'm completely wrong, wasn't she in one of the stories, like she was in charge on Cybertron when I think Starscream was in charge of the Decepticons at one point, and there was like a truce at the time.
Yeah, that's IDW comic books. That's where it came from originally. Yeah. Her look, she looks kind of like I would say a geisha, but she's more like a samurai. Like.
Yeah, she definitely has a much more a Japanese kind of aesthetic to her. With the, especially the head shape is like you're saying, very kind of a geisha like the hair buns and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like the design of the character, and it's one that I do kind of regret not knowing more about her, because I think she's neat.
Yeah, she was, once again, you probably read most of she's only in the IDW comic books, so she might have transferred into like some of the games and stuff now, but
I think she
becomes a major character in there. I think she eventually leads the Autobots at one point, so
I think so too.
Yeah, she's cool, and she's a jet, which is odd for an Autobot. Usually they're not flyers, but she is.
Yeah.
On to our number 3s. My number 3, I could have chose any of the Seekers because I love them all, but I chose, instead of Starscream, I chose Thundercracker because Starscream's whiny and he screws up a lot, and I love him, but Thundercracker, especially in that first season, he is so sarcastic towards Starscream. It is so funny. Like, every time Starscream says something in the background, he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, he's
Whatever.
always like, he's like, yeah, you could do any better, because it's so funny. But I was surprised how sarcastic he's the blue one of the original 3, Thundercracker. And like I say, I love all the Seekers, especially the original 3 especially, but even the Coneheads are kind of cool. But I could have put on him, but Skywarp has no character. That's the problem with the black and purple one. He really doesn't have a character. So Thundercracker it is, because he's sarcastic, and I think sarcasm goes a long way because it's funny. Pat, your number 3?
My number 3 is old Megatron himself.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had the soft spot for the Decepticons. I mean, if you noticed on my Jeep, there was a Decepticon sticker before I got rid of it.
It's true.
The only thing
before it betrayed you.
Before it betrayed me.
Yeah, the Jeep betrayed him. Yep.
I actually never did. It stuck true until the very end.
It just got so expensive to fix.
Yeah. Well, it was starting to break down.
Yeah.
And so I got rid of it before the costs got too high to fix it. But yeah, Megatron, number 3. I mean, what's not to like about Megatron? The guy in the comic books, he's ruthless. In the TV show, he's semi-ruthless.
He's pretty ruthless. He always gets foiled. That's all.
It's true. I do like the fact that whoever did his alternative mode made him the man from Uncle Carbine gun.
Yeah, because that was what it originally was for the toy line in Japan, was the man from Uncle gun. So that when they brought it over, they're like, yeah, it's just a Luger, but it is literally the man from Uncle gun.
So a lot of people don't realize that. And so that's a cool aspect of now
he's not a gun. He's not allowed to be a gun anymore. Now he's a tank or a plane.
Yeah.
No more guns.
Well, he wasn't playing that short story, but what was he a tank in the Netflix comics or cartoon?
Yeah, in the Netflix cartoon, he's a tank, and that's kind of the new version of him, a tank generally.
It's kind of funny that you can't be a gun, but you can be a tank, which is a bigger gun.
Yeah, well,
I think they just don't want kids playing with guns and getting shot. That's all.
Yeah, long gone are the plastic BB guns or the cap guns. Yeah. Those toys are going to be
Remember the old, what are they called? Something Tech. And they looked just like real guns. Like, they were scarily looked like real guns.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the plastic ends, like the orange ends back in the day.
Yeah, well, those toys are going to be long gone. And sadly, kids won't get to grow up with those kind of toys.
I don't know if anybody chose them. Even, what's his name? Shockwave. He's obviously a laser gun. Even his new toy can't be a laser gun, but they made it so that you could he was supposed to be a spaceship, but you could fold down the legs and he looked like the laser gun again. They're like, oh no, that's not an official transformation, but coincidentally you can do that, which I thought was funny.
I had that toy, actually. The old one.
Yeah, it made noises. It was great.
Yeah, and so we were talking about toys. The Decepticon or Megatron's alternative mode was actually a decent gun toy.
Yeah,
it was. It was full size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I love how in the cartoon when he transforms, he shrinks down so that the other
so someone else can hold him.
Yeah, mass shifting in Transformers is hilarious. Frank Welker was the voice, and I think he's famous for a lot of things like from Inspector Gadget, he was Claw, and he's done so many voices, but he definitely brought Megatron to life. I mean, he's cool. Megatron is the man.
He is the man. Ryan.
Well, speaking of men, I got Grimlock.
Oh, yeah.
As for my number 3. But I am going to specifically cite the one that's in the video game Fall of Cybertron. Because what they do in that game, it's a little spoiler, but hey, this game's been out for a while now. Is they kind of integrate like the way he speaks into it's because the Dinobots were all captured by Shockwave and tortured. And that's why they behave so differently and erratically. They weren't originally supposed to be that way. It's because of the torture and the PTSD that they have that he starts speaking like me, Grimlock.
That comes from the IDW comics too. Like that whole idea.
Gotcha.
They used to be like in the original war, I guess, on Cybertron.
They were a Black Ops team. Yeah,
Black Ops team, and then they had some mental PTSD kind of stuff that happened to him, and
otherwise, like my only exposure to him had been just kind of the old style of cartoons where it was less he just was that way. So like that extra writing that kind of went into that thought process, I thought was really kind of frames those characters in a new refreshing light. Yeah. They're not stupid. They've been through some stuff.
Yeah, that's what I liked about the IDW is that they had to change their alternative form to survive whatever they were trapped in. That gave them the PTSD, but then the beast part
took over.
Yeah, took over, and they can't control when they change. So it's almost kind of Hulk-ish in the sense where when they get pissed off or trapped, they turn into their beast mode and.
Yeah, because they had to do some stuff to survive. Like, some got sacrificed and things. But eventually, Grimlock, in the comic books, I think even in the old comic books, he becomes King Grimlock. And, like, it's a bit of a jerk leader that they have to overthrow.
Yeah.
So it's always fun, too. Yeah. Grimlock he's a classic character. And it's one of those things that Transformers, mostly you want him in robot mode, but Grimlock, I think in his dinosaur mode is where he's most famous.
Mm-hmm.
He's the T-Rex. He's a classic.
Yeah.
Remember the original Vac Metal versions? Yeah. Fun times. We're down to number 2. My number 2 is another toy that I had as a kid that I wish I could get now, but it's hard to find because this original version is It was such a classic. It was such a simple transformation, but I loved him. It was the tape Ravage. He's a cat, although some people think he's a dog. He's a cat, and he looks like a Black Panther kind of.
I was gonna say he looks more like a leopard.
Yeah, but he's all black. But when he transformed the original one, he was a tape, and his legs would just fold down, and his head would flip out, and his tail would flip out. Perfectly simple transformation. The new ones are all pretty complex. It's because they want to make it look more realistic. I love that original one, and it is impossible to find now, other than really expensive on eBay.
I'm gonna have one.
Even knockoffs.
I'm gonna have one soon.
Oh, there you go. Oh yes, even that though, the USB version, even that's not quite the same. It's like a Soundwave version of the original tape. But the thing is, now they don't like having the tapes because there isn't tapes anymore. So kids nowadays don't even know what an audio tape is.
I know, it sucks.
So they're trying to figure out other ways to do them. So they're just boxes, or they're just, they're boxes that live inside of...
it's going to be an iPhone next. It might as well be just an iPhone.
Well, even Soundwave, even that doesn't even... Because I guess a phone would be the closest. There's not even iPods anymore. But Soundwave, they redesigned them, I think, as new versions of car, or a vehicle of some sort, because nobody knows what a tape recorder is. It's a sad thing that...
but he wasn't just a tape recorder, though. He was more like a boombox.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, same with Blaster. But
the Lonely Island guys can bring the boombox back.
That's true. They have tried. But Ravage I also love because in the cartoon he just eject all the time. Like really, Laserbeak was the tape that was used all the time because he was the surveillance guy. But the only time he ever ejected Ravage was to go bother Spike. He just chased down Spike and caused him trouble. Spike and Bumblebee. That was Ravage's point, was to go just terrorize the human. So I thought that was funny, too. So Ravage was my number 2. Patrick, what is your number 2?
My number 2 was already talked about, but my number 2 is Devastator.
I thought that was going to be your number 1, frankly.
No, he's my number 2 because he was the first combiner and ginormous toy. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. And you like green.
I do. But, just the thought of these, you have you're fighting Decepticon. You're like, oh, it's just these guys. I'm going to knock the shit out of these guys. And all of a sudden they turn into this big giant robot. They're like, oh, crap, what just happened?
Yeah. Walk.
Walked up, yep. And
actually, another toy I did wind up having growing up.
I did.
Was Devastator?
These toys were very much well past my age, but all my friends, their little brothers had the toys, so that's why I was exposed to them. And so one of my friends had Devastator. His little brother had Devastators, and it was, it was.
And you're like, I'm gonna play with this.
I'm gonna play with this. You get to be Megatron.
You get to have the gun to shoot me. Yes, Devastator is cool. Brian, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is Arcee from specifically the Transformers Prime cartoon series, where she's actually like blue, and
I don't know why she's blue in that.
Like they do give her like some pink accents to like kind of sell that, but it was like she really is kind of front and center in that specific series as like for those that aren't familiar, like it is just a small unit of the Autobots kind of running around. You have Optimus, Ratchet, oh gosh, what's his name? Arcee and one other guy, and Bumblebee. Bumblebee's there too. I'm forgetting the guy. He's bigger dude. But anyway, the Prime series itself is one I really enjoy, and she is kind of the main Lancer, if you will, of the Autobot team. She is probably the best warrior among them, and so she's constantly going out on the missions, and she has like a fun, like very solid like character arc that she goes through with befriending some of the humans and whatnot. So I really like that depiction of her, and I thought she was really cool.
Yeah, she's cool in the movie too, where she's introduced in Transformers the movie. As her and Springer is a duo, is a fun duo. She's a good character, and I think in the Transformers, Netflix, it was her, right? It was her, and she was there, and so was the other female Autobot. I can't remember her name, but yeah,
the blue
I think
one. I forget.
Yeah, the one that's the leader of the ones who stay on Cybertron.
Yeah, the sniper.
But yeah, but
Gotcha.
yeah, I love how at the beginning when Transformers first were made, they're like, no, there's no female Transformers because there's no male Transformers. They're robots. They don't have gender.
Yeah.
But eventually they're like, no, we should make a female one.
We need to make a love story.
A little bit, yeah.
And even that they've really come a long way.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think they realized you need variety in all your characters. Well, back in the day, they always said that there was only like 3 female G.I. Joes because they didn't sell. It's like, well, they didn't sell because you didn't make any more.
Right.
So that's always a problem. Yeah. So we're to number 1, right?
The number ones.
Drum roll, please. My number 1, I think it's pretty obvious. It's been mentioned before, but it's a different version of Jetfire, as he was never in the cartoon because it was a lawsuit. In the cartoon, he's Skyfire. But the original toy is just the Macross Veritech and painted in different colors. And they licensed it, and then they realized, oh wait, we can't have it in the
actually own the rights.
No, they own the rights. It wasn't a FASA thing. They actually own the rights, but they had the toy, but they weren't allowed to have it in the cartoon because the cartoon was shown in Japan where they didn't have the rights to that. It was a different company owned the rights to Jetfire. So they had to change his name to Skyfire and change his complete look in the actual show, and then they wrote him out pretty quick. He's only in like 3 episodes. But the original Jetfire toy, I loved him. I like to think I had him as a kid, but I don't think I did. But I just must have coveted him so much that I thought I had him. Or maybe I did have him. I don't remember. But I have a broken version now. He's missing an arm, but they're quite expensive now. But
I think he's a hard one to get.
Yeah, well, once again, he was only made for like 1 year. And he is awesome. But Jetfire, and I loved how... What's that?
I was just gonna chime in, like, speaking of Macross, I think we'd be remiss to forget to mention, because I forgot. So much has happened this month. All of Macross is going to be coming to the States.
Yes. I think we mentioned it last episode, didn't we?
I think so.
Did we?
Yep.
I want to mention it again. It's been so long.
They're going to put them out in theaters, and even was it Toonami or one of those channels is going to have a new series in the States. So
yeah. Sorry, I couldn't remember like when that event happened compared to when we recorded last.
It happens.
I don't remember it. Yeah, it's the problem with doing a monthly show. You don't remember what you talked about. But as for Jetfire, the other thing I like about him is that even in the cartoon when they had Skyfire, they made him huge because the toy was so much bigger than it was a totally different toy line. So he's so much bigger than the rest that they had to make him a big character in the cartoon, which I thought was funny too. To try to fit it in. And they originally did that original cartoon with the original Jetfire, and they had to scrap the whole thing and redo it as Skyfire. So that original footage, you could see like bad copies of it, but it's hard to get anymore. Lawsuits, don't you love them? But that is my number 1 because he's cool and he's from Robotech / Macross. Really, that's all he is. Pat, what is your number 1? I'm curious.
My number 1 is actually Soundwave.
Oh yes, Soundwave.
I've always loved Soundwave. Mainly because he is the guy who has all the dirt on everybody. And is not able, and that's and he was a loyalist to Megatron. He was a faithful soldier. He didn't have any problems with narking on anyone because he hears all. No, what's the word I'm looking for? No devious plots were never unheard or told to Megatron because Soundwave would hear everything.
Yeah, he's narc on everybody.
Yeah, I do hate the fact that they really made him like a secondary or tertiary character in the movies. All he could do was just hack a satellite, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, well, once again, it's because nobody knew what a boombox is anymore.
So
it's terrible.
It is terrible.
He was cool. I had him too. I have him now. Actually, I have an
and
then G1.
And then to top it all off, he had an army of helpers that just came popping out of his chest. He had a legion. He had a lot of them. I mean, we can just to rattle them off. We rattled Ravage and Laserbeak were the two, and the third one that we saw in the cartoon was Rumble, the guy with the jackhammer arms. But then there were a whole bunch that, like you saw in the comic, like Frenzy was he in the cartoon?
Yeah, for a little bit. He's just a different colored Rumble, but
I think even later on down the line in like Beast Wars or whatever, he gets combiner. Gets a combiner helper, if I remember right. It's like a bird and a gorilla that... I think I saw one of the cartoons I was watching where it was like a bird and a gorilla and they formed to make a regular robot.
Could be. But
it's been too long since I watched Beast Wars.
Yeah, it was a bit. But
yeah, he's a cool guy.
So that was why I liked... I mean, if you were looking to have a spy robot, it was Soundwave.
He was another guy that changed size, too, where he just changed into a it wasn't a boombox. He was usually smaller than a boombox. He was more of like a tape player.
A tape deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they'd always find him around, and it's like, you know who that is? You can tell who that is just because you find him in your place.
That Walkman over there, I don't remember.
Yeah. It's like, that's him. But yeah. He was also like the scientist kind of. He was always cooking up ways to do things for the for the Decepticons.
Yeah, he wasn't as crazy as Shockwave.
No, Shockwave was a mad scientist. Yeah. Bryan, what is your final one?
So, this is probably expected. Optimus Prime.
I'm amazed nobody else chose him, but yeah.
I was a little surprised too, but...
I mean, Optimus Prime was never my favorite. He was always...
Because you're a Decepticon.
Yeah, because he's a goody two-shoes. He didn't really come into his own until he became Nemesis Prime.
I do like a lot of some of the different interpretations of him, like in the Prime series where he was Orion Pax before he became Prime, where basically he was like a bookkeeper, and then was kind of thrust into this leadership position. There's even those stories where like he and Megatron were like friends before the Civil War, which I think is fascinating. But ultimately, like the big thing for me is definitely being voiced by Peter Cullen.
Yeah,
that guy just brought such a level of like dignity and solemnness to this character, where you can tell that it's a this leadership. He's a great leader, but it weighs on him. Like the decisions and the war itself like takes a toll, and but at the end of the day, in that kind of Captain America vein, he'll always get back up. He'll always be there to fight the good fight. And so even as terrible as the Michael Bay movies can be, and even some of the terrible things they make his character do, like some of those closing moments where it's just him narrating, talking to the audience, as it were, like, it can give you chills. Like he just has that great resonating voice. And that's a big reason why I like Optimus Prime.
Yep. He was a role model. That's why when they killed him off in the movie, kids like freaked out. Like the whole franchise almost went into the toilet because they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize. Yes. Cause you're an evil person. But most people were like upset, and they had more calls for that than anything else ever. For Hasbro for killing off Optimus, so they had to bring him back. So
yeah,
but it's because he was like you say, he was a role model. He was a father figure for a lot of people, and it was like important for a lot of kids. And then they just mercilessly murdered him.
Mercilessly, I think it was merciful.
And I will say, like another thing for like a little nod to Peter Cullen, like, to hear him talk about like his inspiration for the character, where he drew a lot from his brother, who had been in, I think it was Vietnam, and just kind of the way like he kind of mimicked a lot of the way that his brother spoke and stuff like that. That level of dedication, I think, is something I really, it shows. You can really tell that it was something that, a character that the people behind it really cared about.
Yeah. I think it was in the Toys That Made Us documentary about Transformers. They interview him, and it's really, really good how they talk about, they interview him, and he goes into all that. So if anybody hasn't watched that, go watch that episode.
Yeah, those are good documentaries, especially if you like toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially that one, because it goes into the whole depth of Transformers, how it started, and all the ups and downs, and yeah, the interviews with Peter Cullen was probably the highlight of that episode too. So it was fun. We did a little top 5. We don't talk about Transformers as much as we other things, so I thought we'd give some Transformers love this month. And I'm pretty immersed in it right now, so it's always hard not to buy more toys. So it's I kind of put a moratorium on buying any more Transformers. I refuse to buy them. Although I do have the Hist tank that transforms into Megatron with Baroness. That's
Baroness.
I have that. Yeah, she rides on his back. But I have that pre-ordered, so there's going to be a. Well, I'm sure I'll talk about that when it eventually shows up. So it never ends.
Never ends, boy.
Well, on that, we'll go to the ExFil and we'll finish off this episode.
Let's ExFil out of here.
Welcome to the ExFil. We're finished this episode number 50 off, this anniversary episode. Please do come to our Facebook page. Look for Mobile Armor Radio. Also, go to our Twitter. I think it's M Armor Radio. And we do have a Discord, too, which, I put stuff in there once in a while. But other than that, that's about it. We'll be back next month with, I'm sure we'll talk about Gen Con and what we saw there. And we'll have some fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have some pictures. Sometimes we forget to take pictures.
Yeah, sometimes it's so hectic we don't get the pictures, but we'll try. We'll see what's there. I don't know. It's mech related. What's going to be there? Who knows? It's always interesting to see what is actually there.
Yeah, usually we're by that Jap animation booth, but this year we're not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's going to be weird this year. We're in a different position, so. Other than that, we'll finish this off. 5 in a row.
That's right. 5-0. Wait, are we saying goodbye already?
Yes.
Oh.
What were you
then
doing?
I guess I was just going to give a shout out to episode 50, the Decepticon episode.
Decepticants.
Decepticam.
But we ended off on Optimus Prime.
That's right.
No.
The good guys always win.
We ended up on talking about how Optimus Prime died horribly.
Yeah, but he came back. He always comes back. He's like a bad penny.
So does Starscream, so that doesn't say much.
Where would the Decepticons be if Optimus Prime stayed dead? Let's just throw that out there.
They would be ruling Cybertron as we speak, and Earth.
Maybe. Anyways, enough of your bickering, you people. I'm Rob.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Chopper.
We'll see you next time, where we won't be arguing who's better, Decepticons or Autobots.
That's right. Decepticons are. See, everyone else agrees.
That was a terrible impression of our audience. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
This has been Mobile Armor Radio. Join our Facebook group by searching for Mobile Armor Radio. Find us on Twitter at @MArmorRadio. Find us on iTunes and visit our website, mobilearmorradio.podbean.com. Join us on the first of every month for more Mecha discussion.
And then he fucking nosed me in the balls and dropped me to the ground.
Good.
That's not fun. And that's our cold open.
Yeah, that's right. That's just going to be a teaser at the end. It's just gonna, and then he knows he's being the balls.